Here are The Young and the Restless, spoilers for next week. Damien's murder brings an arrest. Here's a look ahead at the episodes we'll see from Monday, July 21st to Friday, July 25th, 2025. Next week on The Young and the Restless, many questions remain regarding the murder of Damien Kane. Unfortunately, Chance's hands are tied. He doesn't even have jurisdiction to run a proper investigation, has no backup, and most of the suspects are his friends. However, Chance gets some help when Victor offers up his own detective skills. In a train car, Victor interrogates Kane's assistant, Carter. Victor asks Carter if Kane confided in him about a plan to kill Damien. Carter admits that he would do anything for his boss, but he did not do what Victor and Kane think he did. Is Carter telling the truth that he didn't kill Damien, frame Nick, or do any type of cover-up for Kane? Last seen, Audra and Kyle were steaming up his bedroom on the train. Kyle was only in a towel when the two began kissing, but will this show of emotion go further? And feeling vulnerable in the moment, will Audra use it against Kyle? Later in the maze, Audra talks to Lily about the murder. They'll be going home eventually with some pretty awful news for Nate and Amy. While they are talking, they hear a noise behind the bushes and worriedly call out, "Who's there?" Are they in danger? Back on the train, Nick fears that he is being set up for Damien's murder. He opens his train car door to find Carter and a security guard. Nick is stunned when Carter tells him he needs to come with them and that he's making a citizen's arrest. Meanwhile, in his mansion, Kane is reviewing the murder on his security footage in his private office. Just as Damien is killed, the video cuts out, which does not look good for Kane at all. When Amanda walks in, it looks like Kane is damaging the video, and she tells him she hopes he isn't deleting the evidence. Kane puts down his remote control to turn to her. Amanda is taken aback when Kane glowers and tells her that he was just about to accuse her of doing precisely that. Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, Pulse Canvas. It's me, Julie here. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Keep watching. So let's dive into today's video. Welcome to the Young and the Restless Daily YAPP. For a quick, and by that, I mean you're already halfway done, recap of the most amazing or what the heck did we just watch moments on today's episode. Let's get to it. The Young and the Restless took an odd twist to a shocking murder when Nick decided to frame himself for no apparent reason. Nick was one of the few who knew that there had even been a murder, so time was already on his side. But then it turned out that GCPD's Chance was on the case. Not only did Nick have to walk Chance through the stages of investigation and suggest that he call for backup, but he also handed him the murder weapon and implicated himself with it. Yep, the bloody knife was immediately stolen from Damien's back and hidden in Nick's bathroom. Conveniently, Nick's sink was making a noise, so he was going to do some plumbing, but decided to be framed for murder instead. Nick found the knife neatly wrapped up in a clear plastic bag and ran back to Chance to hand it over. And hand it over he did. Oddly, no one thought that there could be evidence on the plastic bag and assumed it was all contained inside. Joke's on them, though. The murderer wore gloves. Regardless, there was zero proof that Nick found the knife in his train car at all. He could have thrown it out the window, and no one would have known differently. But now he's the only witness to him even finding it, and the only one insisting that he's a suspect. Of all things about this murder mystery not making sense so far, this one might be topping the list. Want more details? We got you! Soap Central has the best full Y&R recaps on the internet. You can even go back over 30 years and read each and every one of them. If you can't wait until the next episode, we have daily spoilers too. And whatever you do this weekend, do not, seriously, do not forget to read the 2 scoops for some laughs in the as close as we can come to being a watching party without actually being a show. And the best part is if you agree or disagree, we want to know. As always, share your comments below. The Young and the Restless recap for Monday, July 21st, reveals that Sharon Newman and Nick Newman will become Carter's prisoners, while Kyle Abbott ruins Audra Charles' seduction scheme. First on Monday's Y&R episode, Kyle and Audra will move their makeout session over to the bed. It'll seem like Audra and Kyle are about to cross an even more passionate line, but then Kyle will pull back and admit he's onto Audra. Kyle will call out Audra's attempt to seduce him and think it's pretty low of her to use Damian Kane's death as part of her plot. Audra will insist she was genuinely scared and distraught before denying that there was a plot at all. However, Kyle will assume Audra's Vibrante funding was dependent on her blowing up his relationship with Claire Newman and breaking his agreement with Victor Newman. After Kyle makes it clear that he loves Claire too deeply to throw it away for a fling with Audra, he'll suggest that he was testing Audra and now knows she'd go all the way. Audra will continue to deny that she was playing Kyle and will think he was just as into what happened between them, but he'll insist it's game over and plan to tell Victor she lost. In the end, Audra will stomp out of Kyle's sleeping car with an intense look on her face. Meanwhile, Billy Abbott and Jack Abbott will have a big fight over Abbott Communications, so Billy will decide to end their partnership and hint about getting Kane Ashby to invest instead. Next, Nick will lash out at Phyllis Summers for throwing away their history and friendship to protect Kane, but she'll deny doing that. Phyllis will suggest maybe someone wants to frame both Kane and Nick, but Nick will act like she's betraying him for the sake of a job. After Nick spills news on the erased security footage, he'll announce his plan to climb down the mountain and get the authorities. Phyllis will try to talk Nick out of it, but he'll stick to his plan. Once Nick makes it back to his sleeping car to prepare for his journey, Sharon will pop up and insist on going with him. Carter and a burly guard will arrive soon after, so Nick will learn he's being placed under house arrest for Kane's safety and for the other guests' peace of mind. Nick will point out that Carter doesn't have the authority to do this, but Carter will warn Nick not to make the guard draw his weapon. Sharon will make her presence known, so Carter will insist she'll have to accompany them and that they have no choice in the matter. In other words, Carter will make Nick and Sharon his prisoners, and there'll be nothing they can do about it. Once Phyllis meets up with Billy, she'll insist she truly believes Kane is innocent. Since Billy wants Chancellor and Phyllis wants a job, they'll come together to form an alliance. The Young and the Restless spoilers say Phyllis will determine that they have to devise a plan and get Kane off the hook, so stay tuned for updates on whether they can pull that off. Phyllis sees her chance. The Young and the Restless spoilers for Monday, July 21st show that even Jack has a breaking point, as he has had enough of Billy using him like an endless cash machine, but treating him like an idiot. Billy threw a tantrum about how his big brother didn't believe in him, and that gave Billy massive sads. So Jack gave Billy yet more millions to start yet another company. But now, Billy has a new shiny object he wants to chase after: Chancellor Industries. Billy is convinced that Kane will give him the company to run, so he is ready to hand Abbott Communications over to Sally. Jack tried to explain why he is against this. Billy responded with a version of, "Dad always loved you best." Jack finally understands that Billy will never listen to his words, so it's time to take action. And while Billy acts as if him running Chancellor is a done deal, Phyllis believes the same. She is absolutely delighted that Kane thinks his life is in danger, and the knife in Damian's back was for him. Somehow, Phyllis has decided that this gives her an edge in talking him into making her Chancellor's new CEO. Still, Phyllis determined not to lose the company she doesn't even have yet. Kyle is also walking around deluded. He is convinced he has Audra right where he wants her. She is about to fall madly in love with him and give up her silly, little girl dreams of launching a cosmetics company to rival J-Boat, which Kyle worked so hard to. Nah, we're kidding. He inherited everything and has never earned a thing in his life. Kyle is so confident that his plan is working that he issues Audra an ultimatum. We hope she doesn't laugh too hard. Y&R spoiler alert. Here are your teasers for The Young and the Restless for the week of Monday, July 21st to Friday, July 25th, 2025. Be sure to tune in to CBS every weekday to see how everything plays out in Genoa City. Jack is blindsided by Billy's decision-making. Phyllis protects her interests. Kyle calls Audra's bluff. Victor demands Audra to hold her end of their bargain. Nick and Sharon find themselves in a dangerous situation. Nikki gives Kane a warning. Kyle tells Nikki the truth about Victor's deal with Audra. Lily stands her ground with Phyllis. Kane questions Amanda's loyalty. Victor and Chance confront a new suspect. Nick's plan to escape backfires. Jack makes a tough decision about Billy. Victor takes matters into his own hands. Billy and Sally work together to help an innocent victim. Nikki is backed into a corner. The Young and the Restless, spoilers and updates tease viewers should brace themselves for another murder in Nice, given Phyllis Summers' reassurance to Nick Newman. Did Phyllis just drop a hint about a second unexpected death in Kane Ashby's mysterious maze of murders, possibly committed by herself? The show has woven a chaotic murder mystery with Damian Kane's body at the heart of it all. Lily Winters firmly believes that Kane Ashby is responsible for Damian's death, but Kane is adamant that he was actually the intended victim. Now, Nick Newman finds himself embroiled in this mess with the damning dagger, complicating matters even further for Chance Chancellor. Chance is diligently piecing together the clues to unravel what truly happened. Y&R fans are keen to discover the next developments in this plot, so let's delve into some of the hints that Phyllis revealed. We ought to begin with a foreboding line of dialogue that could hint at another fatal consequence. "I would eliminate anyone who tries to set you up for murder," Phyllis proclaims to Nick in the episode from July 17th. That certainly was a daring statement to make, especially with Chance present. Could Y&R be setting the stage for Phyllis to actually take out the person who implicated Nick in the murder? Carter appears to be the most plausible suspect. Among everyone currently on Kane's property, Carter's indeed the most logical person of interest. He would have a reason to remove his boss's romantic competitor and create a diversion for the Newmans. At some point, Phyllis might discover that Carter is responsible for Damian's downfall and Nick's wrongful accusation. As Phyllis prepares to initiate an investigation alongside Kane and Amanda Sinclair, she will leave no stone unturned in her quest for the truth. Phyllis could very well be the one to solve the mystery and ultimately trap Carter as the mastermind behind it all. If that occurs, Carter may not surrender easily. In a confrontation that could lead to a dramatic climax, Phyllis might resort to killing Carter in self-defense. Nevertheless, the threat remains as long as the murderer is still at large, so we will keep you posted on any alarming developments. Was Holden the one who stabbed Damian in the back? Damian's death has the Young and the Restless fans playing detective. Now that the murder mystery has started, viewers are wondering who the killer is. Well, one theory has it being someone very close to Damian. Y&R was gearing up for a big murder mystery. However, no one expected Damian to be the victim. The young businessman was killed when a mystery assailant threw a knife into his back. As the investigation begins, there are many questions to be answered. Was the knife meant for Damian or Kane? And is the killer someone already in France? Fans are already starting with their speculation, and on Reddit, one person suggested Holden is the killer. I think Damian's killer is Holden. The fact that Damian was killed with a knife in the back is very telling of it being a Kane and Holden setup. Holden really thought Damian set him up by letting him seemingly get fired. And we know how Kane felt about him being with Lily, one fan theorized. Valid theory. I guessed Holden too, because of the fact that he kept saying Damian stabbed him in the back, another user agreed. However, some fans were skeptical, citing evidence that Holden's in Genoa City, not France. Yet, one viewer said, don't count the theory out. Like Kane, Holden can do the same day trip as well. I'm sure Kane would have given him access to his jet to get the deed done. Holden and Damian weren't on the best of terms prior to his trip to France. With Holden now partnering with Kane, this would have given him the perfect opportunity to get revenge on his ex-pal. Is Holden responsible for Damian's death? If so, was Kane in on the plan too? As tensions between Kane and his family boil over, everyone is left wondering, who will be the next to crack under pressure? The Young and the Restless, recap for Friday, July 18th, sees Kane grappling with growing accusations of murder while desperately trying to prove his innocence. Audra delivers shocking news to Kyle, and the Abbott family becomes divided over whether to support Kane. Meanwhile, Nick is convinced he's being framed. In Kane's office, he showed Chance the security footage from the night of Damian's murder. However, when they reached the crucial moment, the footage suddenly went blank. Kane told Chance that Carter and Amanda could have had access to the equipment, but he insisted he hadn't erased the footage. Kane continued to assert his innocence and claimed he was the intended victim. but the growing suspicion only made matters worse. Kyle was caught off guard when Audra knocked on his car window and informed him that Damien was dead. Audra was frantic, fearing the news would devastate Amy and ruin her recovery. Kyle offered his support, but the two soon found themselves discussing the growing suspicion that Kane may have been responsible. As Audra confided in him, she expressed her fear and found comfort in Kyle's presence. They shared a kiss as the situation became even more complicated. Billy, Jack, and Diane were shocked when they learned that Damien had been murdered in the maze. Billy suggested the murder could have been a crime of passion tied to Kane, but Diane wasn't convinced. Kane arrived and insisted that he was the target, but the Abbotts were left wondering who could have been behind the attack. Tensions rose as Jack dismissed the idea that the Newmans could be involved, but Billy suggested it wasn't out of the realm of possibility. Nick fumed as he talked to Phyllis and Sharon about the murder investigation. He was certain that Kane was responsible for the crime and expressed frustration that Phyllis didn't see it. Phyllis defended Kane, but Nick accused her of putting her job above the truth. Their argument grew heated, and Nick warned her that Kane might send him to prison for a crime he didn't commit. Later, Phyllis and Sharon discussed the possibility that someone close to Kane could have been involved in the murder, but both women agreed that Kane wasn't the killer. Nick ran into Chance by the maze, and the two discussed the blank security footage. Nick was convinced that the entire investigation had been a setup, but Chance reminded him that he was only one cop with limited jurisdiction. As the tension rose, Kane and the Abbotts arrived, and Nick vowed to expose the truth before anyone else got hurt. With so many conflicting theories and motives, the mystery deepened, and no one knew who would be next to crack under the pressure. Also on Y&R, Lily stands her ground, The Young and the Restless, spoilers for July 21st, 25, focus on dangerous and frantic situations in Nice, France, as the murder mystery continues. Nick's anger is on full blast because someone is framing him for Damien's murder in the maze. Next week, his emotions in the south of France are on high, and he finds himself experiencing some extreme circumstances. First, Nick and Sharon find themselves in a dangerous situation. Will they have to rely on each other to get out of this situation? And how dangerous are we talking? Then, later in the week, Nick's plan to escape backfires. With his anger on high and his being a person of interest for Damien's murder, there may be no shot for Nick to get off that island anytime soon. Meanwhile, Lily stands her ground with Phyllis. Phyllis prides herself on being Kane's defender. Phyllis could try to shut down Lily for thinking that Kane murdered Damien. It sounds like Lily and Phyllis are in for a friction-filled conversation next week. On Friday, an emotional Audra and a toweled Kyle end up kissing in his room on the train. On Monday, Kyle calls Audra's bluff. However, is this brief makeout session enough to violate the contract that Kyle signed and gave to Victor? Later, Kyle tells Nikki the truth about Victor's deal with Audra. How will Nikki respond? Meanwhile, the Kyle-Victor contract has to be on Victor's mind when he demands Audra hold up her end of their bargain. He is paying Audra to do serious damage to Kyle and Claire's relationship. That's how she is getting funding for Vibrante after all. What does Victor want to see her do? How far does he want her to take their deal? The professional relationship between Kane and Amanda is under fire. As his lawyer, she has been completely honest about thinking he may have been the one to kill Damien. But even if she does think this way, she is his lawyer, and she will fight for him. However, Kane ends up questioning Amanda's loyalty. Is he right to question her motives and actions? Finally, Billy and Sally have been on different pages in Nice. He's all about Chancellor, and she's all about Abbott communications. However, they rush into action when Billy and Sally work together to help an innocent victim. Who's in trouble? Spoilers for upcoming episodes of the CBS soap opera, The Young and the Restless, airing from July 21st to 25th to 25, promise high-stakes confrontations, bold moves, and emotional revelations. Kyle forces Audra to make a choice, and Billy pushes Jack past his breaking point. Meanwhile, Sharon and Nick's situation grows more perilous by the minute. With Victor tightening his grip and new suspects emerging, the tension in Genoa City is off the charts. Expect a thrilling series of events as Nikki takes charge, Amanda grows suspicious, and Phyllis plays both sides. Meanwhile, Kane finds himself under fire from all directions. As relationships are tested and secrets inch closer to exposure, Genoa City braces for a week full of explosive fallout and unexpected alliances. At the beginning of the week on The Young and the Restless, Kyle challenges Audra, and their playful flirting turns into something serious. He wants answers, and she'll have to decide if she's all in or ready to walk away. At the same time, Billy makes some wild moves that push Jack to his limit, leaving Jack shocked. Phyllis, always thinking ahead, works hard to get on Kane's good side as things heat up around them. Victor pressures Audra to keep her end of their deal, making it clear he expects results. Meanwhile, Sharon and Nick land in even more danger, proving their troubles are only getting worse. Nikki steps in to warn Kane about what he's walking into, but since he's not great at taking advice, he probably won't listen. In the middle of the week on The Young and the Restless, Kyle opens up to Nikki and tells her the truth about Victor's secret deal with Audra, which could shake things up. Lily stands up to Phyllis, showing that she's not backing down, and it could be the start of a bigger fight. Amanda becomes more suspicious of Kane and confronts him, leading to a tense moment that might change their relationship. Victor and Chance start to put the pieces together and focus on a new suspect in the murder case. It is Carter who has been acting suspiciously for a while now. At the same time, Nick tries to break free from whoever's holding him, but his plan doesn't go as expected, and things take a dangerous turn. Meanwhile, Jack has to make a tough choice about Billy's place in the family and at Jabot. By the end of the week on The Young and the Restless, Victor takes total control of the investigation, showing once again that he won't wait around for others to make decisions. Sally and Billy team up to help someone who's stuck in a bad situation, most likely because of Nick's failed escape attempt. As for Nikki, she's had enough. Anyone who tries to mess with her now is going to regret it. From bold moves to emotional showdowns, this is set to turn everything upside down. Long-time partnerships may fall apart, and surprising new ones could form. With trust breaking down and drama heating up, everyone in Genoa City will have to decide where they stand before it's too late. Was she a good mother to Billy? Billy has lost his mind and his senses, which is not surprising considering it's Billy we're talking about. He's stepping down from Abbott Communications, which has angered his brother Jack. Now, fans of The Young and the Restless are questioning Jill's parenting to see if she's to blame. Questions about Jill's parenting were raised on one soap opera message board. The original poster wanted to know if she was the reason Billy turned out the way he did. Has Jill been a good mother to Billy over the years? Thoughts? The thread reads. The user explained, Jill and Billy had a very complicated relationship over the years. Prob the worst mother-son duo, next to Michael and Gloria. This could be the reason why Billy makes so many costly mistakes and only thinks about himself. Billy felt slighted when Jill sold Chancellor to Victor. Some Y&R fans took to the thread to share their thoughts. One fan wrote, that would be a no. To which another responded, second that no way ever. Jill cared about Jill number one. A third user added, no. He hasn't been a good son, but she was a terrible mother, still is. Jill fired Billy a while ago, which did surprise fans. She knew better than to work with her son, who makes the worst choices due to shiny object syndrome. He sees his career the same way he sees gambling. He always needs to take a risk, even if it's worth it. Bill gets high off the thrill of chasing something new. In Jill's eyes, this doesn't make Billy a good businessman. She wanted to teach him a lesson, but that doesn't mean that she should be blamed for the way that Billy turned out. He's a grown man who should hold himself accountable for his actions and choices. Jack will make sure of that. He might steal Abbott Communications and make sure that Billy will never get a cent of it ever again. What are your thoughts? Do you think Jill is to blame for the way Billy turned out? Do you think she's a good mother? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section. Michael Baldwin, played by Christian LeBlanc on The Young and the Restless, may feel like he's trapped in a zoo, unable to get off Kane's estate in France. In September, the actor will head to the East Coast for a literal zoo story. the famous play by Edward Albee. Play by Edward Albee. This is kind of our out-of-town tryout to see about doing the show off-Broadway in New York. LeBlanc tells Soap Central about his 3-performance run in the Zoo Story, set for September 4th, 5, and 6 at the historic Jersey Shore Arts Center in Ocean Grove, New Jersey. The Zoo Story is a play written by Edward Albee, and it tells the story of 2 men, Peter and Jerry, who encounter each other at a park bench in New York City's Central Park. Peter's a wealthy publishing executive and a family man. Conversely, Jerry is a disheartened loner, desperate to make a connection. The encounter between the 2 men escalates into a powerful confrontation in which Jerry brings Peter down to his level. LeBlanc will be playing Peter. Matt DeRogatis, who LeBlanc appeared on stage in Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, will be playing Jerry. There's a good deal of physical action in the play, but that's only part of what LeBlanc likely finds challenging about playing Peter and all his roles. "This is the heart of what we do," the actor says. "And I've got to tell you the build to it, as you dig deeper and deeper, it's like, I'm terrified. Just like I was when I did Cat on a Hot Tin Roof. It's at the same theater." Why does LeBlanc take on parts other than Michael on The Young and the Restless? Ewan McGregor said on The Graham Norton Show, "You know when you're in your run, and you're at brunch, and you're just all quiet, and you know you have a matinee coming up. You really can't go home," LeBlanc recounts. "There's this whole life you're living that stops. Your life only happens during the show." The scenes between Peter and Jerry are intense, which will call for each actor to truly be connected to his scene partner. "Some of the best compliments I've ever had in my acting have been where someone will say, 'I saw you in the scene and you were fully engaged even if you weren't talking,'" LeBlanc shares. "I thought that was brilliant. I said, 'Thank you.'" Nick lets Kane know he'll regret any shenanigans on Y&R. The Young and the Restless recap for Tuesday, July 15th, saw Nick and Phyllis uncover new evidence in the club car, while Kane faced mounting doubts from Amanda. Meanwhile, Lily struggled with her growing belief that Kane was responsible for Damien's death, and Victor and Nikki feared for their children's safety. In the club car, Phyllis confirmed that the dagger Nick found resembled the one used to kill Damien. Nick was convinced that someone was trying to set him up, and he believed that Kane had orchestrated it. He explained that he had found the dagger under the stopper for his sink, and now suspected Kane of framing him all along. Phyllis and Chance didn't fully buy Nick's theory, but Nick insisted that Kane had orchestrated everything, even going so far as to trap them in the isolated location. Chance tried to remain focused on the facts, but Nick was adamant, pointing out how odd it was that Kane didn't just hire security. Instead, he brought Chance there, possibly to set up a situation where they would all be implicated. Despite Phyllis's assurances that she didn't believe Kane was responsible, Nick remained suspicious. In the dining area, Kane spoke with Amanda, who demanded full transparency if she was going to defend him. Kane insisted he had no involvement in Damien's death, claiming he barely interacted with him. Amanda wasn't convinced, especially since Kane had the most obvious motive, eliminating competition for Lily's affections. She pushed for the security footage, but remained uncertain whether she could trust Kane's claims of innocence. Phyllis walked in, making it clear she didn't think Kane was guilty. However, she relayed the news that Nick had found the dagger in his bathroom and handed it over to Chance. Phyllis backed Kane, reminding Amanda that they had been together the whole time, which would make it impossible for him to plant the murder weapon. Kane seemed to appreciate Phyllis's support, but Amanda wasn't swayed. She questioned his actions, suspecting that an innocent man would have called the police by now. Meanwhile, Lily sobbed in her car, struggling with the loss of Damien and her suspicions about Kane. She recalled the moments they had shared and how Kane had once believed they could get back together. Now, with Damien dead, she couldn't help but wonder if Kane had killed him to remove the competition. When Chance arrived to talk to Lily, she was ready to give him her theory. Kane was the only one who had a motive. Chance, however, didn't believe Kane would throw everything away on a sudden act of violence. Lily's conviction that Kane was guilty remained unshaken, even as she reflected on the complexities of their past. Victor and Nikki, while waiting for news, found themselves reflecting on their children. Nikki had a nightmare about her kids being stranded. Victor, always protective, reassured her that he would take care of Kane, but Nikki worried about what actions her husband might take in the heat of the moment. Nick filled them in on the situation, including his belief that Kane was trying to frame him for Damien's murder. Victor agreed that it was a setup, but the whole situation didn't add up. They speculated about who could be working with Kane and why the plot didn't seem to have a clear strategic direction. The tension reached a boiling point when Nick ran into Kane near the maze and accused him of planting the dagger. Kane vehemently denied it, and the confrontation quickly turned personal. Nick warned Kane that he had targeted the wrong person and threatened that Kane would regret it.